Today we have Lakshmi. She's a scientist who works at the intersection of artificial intelligence and biology. Recently, she was also recognized as one of the top leaders in pharma and biotech by the Insight magazine. She has spearheaded many initiatives like LexGPT and Lex Mission. What's interesting about today's podcast that along with hearing about her journey, like how she reached where she is, we also discuss about a very hot question. That is, will AI replace scientists? Or will it act like the wind beneath the wings of the scientist? So, what's gonna be? So, let's go. Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm very good, and thank you so much for taking out time for us and joining us on the podcast. Can you please introduce yourself?
So, I'm Lakshmi. I'm a computational biologist. I've been in this field for now about 20 years, 20 plus years, including my graduate studies. Um, it's been a very interesting journey transitioning from physics to computational biology and where I'm today. I've had the, uh, you know, good fortune to work with some amazing people, do some very interesting projects, and mostly I've been mostly involved in understanding large data to make sense out of it in terms of biology, medicine, and recently drug discovery. So it's been a great journey so far, and I'm really looking forward to what is coming next.
Okay, so you mentioned you did a transition from physics to biology. So what was the reason for
Yes.
that transition? I mean, what was that thing that made you incline towards biology?
So it actually happened very, I would say, accidentally. You have to think in 2004, 2005, right?
Okay.
So there was no bioinformatics then. So
Yes.
we were a small bunch of computational physicists
Yeah.
trying to figure out the problems and we started with complex fluids, which is very physicsy in nature. And then over time, our lab started getting interested in biology because at the end of the day DNA is a semi-flexible polymer, and we were trying to understand DNA from a physics angle. So we did a lot of modeling and had very interesting questions. So we just came across in one of the journal clubs, we came across one paper. Actually, I still have that paper with me. I think it got published in Science, and they were looking at the stochastic nature of gene expression, noise in gene expression, right?
Okay.
So how the switching of stochasticity, uh, for example, one promoter state to another, right?
Okay.
How does it influence the variability in gene expression? So that's a very interesting physics question.
Okay.
And what they found was that the gene expression noise is actually a trait that evolves, meaning that a cell can optimize the balance between what we call as fidelity, which is low noise, and what we call as diversity, which is high noise. And that was a breakthrough, if you ask me, at that point of time. And we didn't know much about, we were not, you know, breaking down genome at that point and figuring out chip-seq, chip, RNA-seq. All
Yeah.
those was not there. It was purely from a curiosity point of view that physicists were trying to understand biology. And that was really the beginning of it. And then I remember reading a lot on genes and genomes and understanding. And I was actually going a little away from the abstract theoretical computational physics field. And I was looking for more applied because that's where my brain, different people have different strengths. And I quickly realized theoretical is not my strength. And applied is where my heart is. And I was moving more towards that. And here there was this opportunity to understand biology using physical principles. So it was very organic, but at the same time, having that right question at the right time always prompts you to think more and look more and explore more and look for the next opportunity. And so it just happened like that. And when I came to US, I realized it's an ocean. Biology is an ocean, and having understanding and really understanding physics and doing things the physics way may not help because they are very exact and they can be compartmentalized, and biology cannot be. It's very contextual, it's high dimensional, it is full of noise, variability, and it's just complex and interconnected, right? But it is challenging, and if you like a challenge, this is the way to go. So I didn't know honestly much about it. I jumped into it without knowing the complexity of it.
Okay.
But having the physics background always helps to ask the
Yeah.
right questions and think in a very different way, and in an analytical way, in a quantitative way.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened, the transition. It was very organic, it was very unplanned, should I
Ah,
say.
okay. So, like when you when you try to switch the discipline, like from you went from physics to biology, and
Hmm.
then you went to Harvard. Of course, you did your postdoc in Harvard, and you were actually getting hold of the subject of biology. As you said, it's a complex subject, and it's very different from
Right,
physics, which is very compartmentalized, whereas
right,
biology is all connected. So,
right.
like being in a competitive environment, like in a university like Harvard, and also getting a grasp of the subject itself. How did you balance the two things together?
So I wouldn't say I balanced it well in the first opportunity I had. And it was not Harvard, it was Harvard, MIT, and Health Science and Technology. There was a
Okay.
consortium for bioinformaticians, and they gave us a platform,
Ah, okay.
to do work, to think about. I mean, it is part of Harvard, but it is a slightly different consortium.
Okay.
So a lot of bioinformaticians and people who were getting into computational biology came together, and there was actually a need so that was the time ChIP-seq was coming out, right?
Okay.
And we didn't know it was the shorter DNA, and we were breaking and we were trying to look at where are these things binding and what does it even mean? Sometimes you get binding all over the place, sometimes. So we were trying to understand how do you translate binding into biology. And unlike today, we didn't have too many tools of ChatGPT to just ask questions and get answers. So the biologists were wanted a tool, and I thought this was a good opportunity for me because I'm coming with this computational skills, and here is this biology. So the bridging happened with a mentor who helped me to frame questions. So I didn't frame the question, he framed the question, and we jumped into it, right? And it was a lot of algorithms and figuring. So the algorithm is where your strength is. So you understand that, okay, I can take this and refine this and combine this. And that was the time. I don't think even the GPUs and those were just coming out at that point of time. So we combined all those strengths, the technological strength, the computational strengths, to actually create a web tool that's interactive and easy to use. So it was just combining different strengths, right? The programming and the understanding of biology to give something to the community that they can use. And that was only the beginning. So at that point of time, it was a junction for me. I could either go to industry and continue the path or go to academia and learn more. And I realized without learning biology, um, it's really like solving a problem without understanding a problem,
Yeah.
right? And that doesn't help. So I chose academia very consciously at that point of
Okay.
time. And I did not really honestly care too much about what problems I was working on. I just wanted a problem, a team, a good place to really put together everything in a systems biology context. So I took the first opportunity that came my way. I remember taking that first postdoc because I was really impatient, I would say. I didn't want to wait for it. That's what I'm saying. So now my career trajectory has not been very practical or very calculated or measured, which is probably not a good thing, but that's how it evolved. I literally sometimes I just went with my gut or went with my instinct or went with, okay, this is interesting. Let me take a
Yeah.
shot at it. But I spent a long time in that environment. And what I understand now, looking back, is it's really at one point when you're learning, especially, it's not about, I think, even what you do or what the problems you're choosing. It's really about using that problem to your advantage and making the best use of it. That's one thing I learned looking back. Then opportunities happen, right? And then looking at problems as not problems, as opportunities, will always be helpful in life
Okay.
in general, right? That's the same thing in professionals. You can always find something that is lacking, that is missing, but then there's always an opportunity in that problem. And if you can identify that quickly
Yeah.
and make use of it, that would help you in every step of the way.
Okay.
So that's what happened in the transition. Also, spend a long time understanding biology, being a systems biologist, and that's I would say the real beginning of the my journey.
Yeah. And actually I'm quite fascinated at when you started working in the field at that point of time, very commonly used techniques, like the techniques that are very commonly used now, like chip sequencing. Every
Correct.
other lab today is doing chip sequencing, was actually not there, or maybe it was in like very initial stages. I want to know that you have seen the field from that time till here, where we are you know dreaming of a future, or maybe thinking of a future where scientific discoveries might be AI driven discoveries, let's say. How do you
Yeah.
see that our obstacles has changed? What were the
Mm,
obstacles then when you started, and what
mm.
are the obstacles now that you have, that you face now?
Oh, this is a very interesting question because this is something that you think about pretty much, right, all the time. So the obstacles when I started were mostly people not knowing what to do or where to go with what we have, right? So it was evolving. There was data evolving, being created at different labs, different universities, different industries, and there were technology was slowly developing, right? So the envelope got pushed both from the data side and the technology side. So if you look at it from a purely science perspective, in I just uh, I sort of divide in my mind as three different parts, right? Before 2010, I would say it was more of molecular biology driven. So you're thinking about genes and proteins. This is my favorite gene. I want to work on this protein and let me figure it out, right? It was very linear if you think about it that way. That's a molecular biology driven biology that
Yeah.
we saw. From 2010 to 2022, I would say, because that's when people start, because machine learning per se was always there, modeling was always there, and as physicists and chemical engineers, and we've always done modeling, right? Chemical modeling, physiological modeling, EP modeling.
Yeah.
So we've done all that, but the difference is that in those modelings you are essentially boiling it down to fundamental equations, and you're imposing these equations on the system. So we are not using the power of data there because we didn't have that kind of data, right? And we didn't develop those algorithms to take care of it. So if you look at it, whether it's technology or algorithms, they evolve based on what is available and what we want to do. So there's a little bit of prediction and a little bit of availability that comes together to create innovation. So what the problem we had was to really trying to use the data to make sense out of it. But even then it was two-dimensional. Now think about it from one-dimensional to go into two-dimensional, right? And we are thinking that, okay, we have these genes and proteins, let's connect it using physical principles.
Yeah.
And that did not fully work purely because of the complexity of biology, right?
Yeah.
Because the language of biology is a lot more complex. The same thing, the context sensitivity, one cell, one tissue doesn't talk to other. The patient data is extremely heterogeneous. And then you have, certain cell type doing certain things, a certain cell type doing something else. You're taking tissue from this side to that side. So the variability, the context sensitivity, the interaction of it, right? Sometimes even a phenotype data, you have really, really nice, good knockout data. It doesn't mean anything much sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And the dynamic nature of it to start with. So there's so much of complexity. So bioinformatics, I don't think gave fully what it promised or
Okay.
what we thought very naively that it would. So now the problem is, so now at post 2022, I would say yes, machine learning is very much hyped and there's so much talk about it, but I genuinely believe it would help us answer certain questions that we couldn't answer.
Okay.
Because machine learning, this sentence I'm taking from an article I read,
Okay.
but it's so good that I want to use it.
Yes.
Machine learning exactly thrives on the limitations of bioinformatics or pure
Okay.
bioinformatics research, because certain things, the context sensitivity or the variability, and machine learning, if you apply correctly,
Hmm.
can answer those questions. It gives you the third dimension, literally. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, it's high dimensional. Making it very simplistic in the sense that now you have this Z angle, And you can go to minus z also, right? Because it's getting fed back.
Yeah.
So there is some hope now, I think, if we actually get the data in the right way, and
Mm.
if you are very careful about creating those data, which is extremely important, because
Yeah.
we shouldn't forget garbage and garbage out in biology. Unlike tech, right? This is consequences. This is, we are talking about diseases, we are talking about drugs. So
Yeah.
it's extremely important that we are very responsible when we are creating data and we are putting it together. So if we are careful about that, I think the field can evolve. It can give rise to very, very interesting questions and answers in future. So I'm really excited about how this is going.
Okay.
Of course, there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of confusion, and it will be there. There'll be a lot of wrong predictions in biology, but something good will also evolve out of it.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I actually think that, this thing that the dimension that machine learning adds to bioinformatics literally helps you to extract every inch of the like information from every inch of the data. I do agree with that. But normally, when we talk about bioinformatics, people normally think bioinformatics is just omics mostly. Any omics, proteomics, metabolomics, or transcriptomics, genomics. And they mostly think that omics is running pipelines, running tools rather than developing algorithms, applying machine learning. It's running pipelines. And they also confuse bioinformaticians with the people who do computational biology. Although I think that they are not same, because I think they have quite a lot of difference in the techniques they use, how they use. So what do you think is the difference between the two?
So this has become slightly subjective over time, is what I understand. Because these divisions are actually are sort of merging at
Yeah.
this point. Whether you are doing statistics, you are a statistical geneticist versus a computational biologist, a bioinformatician, machine learning biologist, predictive biologist, all coming together. But when it, like I would say, in the last 10 years, when it was evolving, the way we looked at bioinformatics versus computational biology was, bioinformatics essentially, we don't need to understand, as bioinformatician, you don't really need to understand the depth of biology fully.
Okay.
You have to understand the data well, and
Mm.
you have to know how to interpret it. And if needed, if there is a need for a platform creation, you have to do that. And it mostly revolved around the statistical techniques of understanding and interpreting data to make sense out of biology. But a computational biologist, according to me, is someone who thinks from a problem point of view. So you have to create problems, design experiments to answer those problems, and design and create tools and algorithms that would answer that problem. Now, those tools and the algorithms could be many. It could be a modeling technique that you have to use, right? It could be a machine learning technique that you have to use. It could be a sequencing technology that you have to, interpret and use. And so it's a little more holistic in nature, computational, the way computational biologists think and resolve and approach problems. So that was the traditional division between bioinformatics and computational biology. But to be very honest, I don't think now those divisions even exist that much. It's all interchangeably used because it's all coming together from biotech. It's becoming tech bio as we are talking.
Yeah.
And in the tech bio world, it's all pretty much the same. It really depends on the problem, and you have to pick up and use whatever you need to.
Yeah.
And you don't some like hypothesis creation has become so much faster and easier now. So the amount of knowledge and scholarliness you used to have and you needed to have, you don't need that now.
Yes.
Similarly, the amount of coding skills and coding nuances that you needed to know in your brain, you don't need that now.
Yes.
So it's constantly evolving and changing and accelerating in an exponential way,
Yeah.
and our brain can't fathom it, you
Yes.
know, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So these definitions are changing very quickly. And in the next year or two, you may not need all these people. You may need only like 10 people who can do it, a few things here and there. So that's where it's going. So it's I understand the question, and this is something that we used to think a lot, but I don't think it's that
Yeah,
that
I
relevant
get it.
at this stage. Yeah.
I think that is a very interesting point that you brought up over here, that now that we don't
Mm,
need that level of scholars to define the hypothesis, because it's now coming so easy to us, like
mm,
compared to the earlier times. But what I want to know is that you said maybe you require 10 people,
mm,
right, to
mm,
make the hypothesis, to do the nuances, to
mm,
handle everything.
mm,
What skill do I need to be in those 10 people? Because I am a computational biologist or a
mm,
bioinformatician. So let's
mm,
say I want to make myself ready for the challenges in the future and
mm,
just make myself ready for the job market. So what
mm, mm,
should I have that, to
mm.
be in those 10 people that you say that will be there?
Also, one small correction I want to make is that scholarliness never get replaced.
Okay.
What I was trying to say is that my expertise is in subject A,
Yeah.
and how do I pick up subject B
Mm.
without spending years on it? Is
Okay.
there a quick way to do it? That quick way was not there before. Everything had to be, it took time, because if you're not an expert in some field, it was very difficult to get into a second field.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by see, the reason scholarliness cannot be replaced is because there is some, I believe, this is completely a personal opinion, is that there is something about human intuition and human knowledge and certain nuances sometimes that, or at this point in time, I don't think machines are there yet.
Yeah.
So scholarliness is not just as a not a linear concept, right?
Mm.
It is a lot of factors, and there are certain X factors. Like
Yeah.
some artists, when they draw something, there is something to it. You
Yeah.
can't define what it is. So it's the same with scientists. So a lot of people, when they read and when they assimilate knowledge, when they go through experiments year after year, there are certain things that you pick up and and there is no substitute for it even today.
Yes.
So that's not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is that in the interdisciplinary world, if you have to pick up 10 things to find answers to something, those 10 things used to take time
Yes.
because we wouldn't be able to pick it up, right? Now that time is actually reduced. So when the time is reduced and the resources you need are reduced, obviously, efficiency is increased.
Yes.
Now, what would you want to need to be in that 10 people? That is a tough question, to be honest. To be very honest, I don't think anybody knows. People would say in the internet that this is what you do. I genuinely think that nobody knows the answer to that, full answer. But what I can say is that creativity is something that's going to help people, because asking the right question, like when something is presented to you and someone else, that person, the way the person sees that and the way you see it is different.
Yeah.
What are the questions that is coming to your mind when you see something? How creative can you be to connect the dots? That capability, that kind of thinking will give us an edge. One. Second is adaptability. How quickly can you adapt, right?
Yeah.
That will give you an edge. And third is curiosity. That is, I don't think that's ever an old concept. That is one of the primary things that is going to drive you, because when you're curious, you are not caring about where things are going, what the other person is doing, where you are just there. And that'll never get old you know so, and community, of course, that's something that we all need to have conversation with others. So if you keep in mind these four things, and if you are persistent and just doing what you like doing, things will happen organically. But then, of course, you have to pick up machine learning. You have to know what is happening in the AI world. You have to know what the problems are. And you may, at some point, will also have to think about your own,
Yes.
because everybody is becoming their own product. I mean, the whole concept of someone else providing for you is probably not going to last long. People may have to think about portfolio careers
Yeah.
very soon. So it's a transition from someone else. It could be a government job years ago, and it became industry, and who knows, right? So These kind of changes are constantly happening. If you zoom out and watch, you will see that historically this has happened all the time. It's just that when you're in it, it feels overwhelming, and it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Even to me, it's overwhelming. I don't think I've seen something like this in this 20 years of my career. Never.
Yeah.
And I've seen internet happen. Even internet was not so overwhelming. But then when internet happened, I
Yeah.
was very young.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to go through the consequences of it. It was like,
Yes.
wow, this is a nice tool I can use now,
Use it.
right? But when you are used to certain things and things suddenly change, it can be very overwhelming, unsettling, and it's natural to feel scared. It's natural to feel overwhelmed. It's natural to feel unsettled. All this is very, very normal. But there are certain things that is, you can only embrace it and adapt. If you resist it, it's not gonna help.
Yeah.
So I don't have answer to what to do for those 10 people, but
But
I yeah.
yeah, I actually am very intrigued by your answer, honestly. And I want to pick up 2 points from that. That is the adaptability and the creativity.
Mhm.
Because curiosity, when you are doing science, you have to be curious. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we can't do science
right.
because that's all about undiscovering things.
Yeah, right.
But when you say about adaptability, now that AI is coming, how
Mm.
far are we biologists in adapting to this AI revolution? Basically, I read one of your interviews where you said that the major hurdle in the field of biology is the availability of the data sets, of the reliable data sets. So, how do you think that we can solve this hurdle? And in the first place, why do we have this hurdle when we actually want to adapt to this AI revolution rather than just be on the side?
So the thing is, so far, like I said, no, we were siloed up until recently. The
Yeah.
tech world was going very fast. A lot of smart brains and
Mm.
extremely brilliant people were driving it so fast that all this has happened, including the AI revolution and the agentic AIs and AI agents. Everything has happened there. The bio world was lagging behind for a few reasons. One is that think about the data, right? In the tech world, first of all, the consequences of the data, the privacy issues, the legal issues, they are minimal. You can get hold of data much faster to play with it. At
Yeah.
the end of it, you think back, you have an algorithm. It doesn't matter what data it is, right? Now you want to create something. Right, the data is data. If it's nicely structured, formatted, it will give you what it's asked for, because at the end of the day, it's just a tool. Now think about bio, right? Your lab is creating a set of omics data for your problem. Another lab is creating another set of omics data for their problem, for a different tissue, for a different species, for a different organ, for a different time step, for a different disease at different stages. Um, think about the variability. Now, yes, you have access to it in GEO or SRA. Now, if you have you formatted it right? Nobody knows. So already think about the variability there.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I have a company. This is my proprietary data. I'm not giving it to you. So if these are not talking to each other, so the main limitation is that the public data that's available is sometimes not formatted correctly, and the inherent variability is so large that to scale it is harder, right? This concept of scaling happened only with AI, right? And
Yeah.
until then, we were not thinking about scaling, and that's the difference between physiological modeling or physical modeling versus machine learning modeling, right? The data is creating the results. So now suddenly we have this algorithms. Like I said, we have pushed the envelope in all sides. We have
Yes.
created data, we have created technologies that would do, including spatial, drug seq, all kinds of sequencing. And here we have pushed the envelope of machine learning. So we have all three ready, but the two problems are that one, the data is not first of all shared between us. A company A will have a data for certain things, company B will have a certain data for certain things. We don't share, right? So unless we share, we wouldn't have enough data to make predictions. It's very simple if you think about it.
Yes.
So that becomes a bottleneck, whether we like it or not, and that cannot be changed because I'm spending money on my
Yes.
data. If I give it to you and then you use it and you create something, I'm losing it, right? So
Yeah.
it becomes that way very an economic decision and a legal decision, and people will freak out within the company if you talk about sharing. But luckily, we have a lot of data outside because of academic researchers. But then we did not have, in academics, one of the things I noticed is that we are not trained in a way to think about scalability, think about reproducibility, think about, so that training does not happen at the PhD level. We are creating our own codes, we are creating our data sets, we are creating our algorithms, and it's scattered all over the place. So the
Yes.
fragmented nature of it and the fact that we are not trained to think from a product point of view, right? So when the bio is moving towards tech, we have to think it from a product point of view, right? If you want it to be at the end translatable. So that training is not there. So what happens is that we sort of, that rigor we lose. We don't think too much about it. We want to publish faster. So that's a limitation that we have in academia. So what happens is that that is the data problem we are talking about. It's not that we don't have enough data. One, the data is not structured in a way that it's machine learning friendly as of now, even including EHR data, right? Because there's a lot of things that has been, and legacy data. Think about the legacy data that's lying in different
Yeah.
companies' databases, right? Some could even be in paper even now. So
Yes.
putting it all together in a way that makes sense and and having the access to it in a way that makes sense. That is the bottleneck. Once we have that, now I'm sure people are a lot more aware of it and they're creating. It's happening. A lot of them are happening in stealth mode as we are talking.
Yeah.
A lot of them are happening within companies and in universities too. So it's happening, but it's not happened yet.
Okay.
And then, of course, the false predictions that can happen, and that's a whole different
Yeah.
technical side of it. I can go on and on because that's my life. But without going into the technicality of it, let's just understand that the the consequences of a wrong prediction in bio and in biology
It's
is a
very heavy.
lot more. So that is the reason why we have to be very, very clear about what goes in
Yes.
as data. That is why I keep saying this in every meeting that take the time to create good data. It is worth it. We don't have to jump into conclusions
Yeah.
because the problem is once it gets into the machine learning platform, what comes off, we don't have control over it. It's unlike, we have certain experimental, like I said,
Yeah.
it's completely, it's a data driven model, it's a predictive model, right? So there we have to be responsible and really, really think through the problem very clearly and have a very clear questions and know what data we are using and how we are using. And yeah, that's I would say still a bottleneck for a lot of companies and institutions. I'm sure there are big companies, big pharmas that has enough data to make sense of things, but that's like probably 10% of the
It,
scientific world.
yeah, I think I think this bottleneck has only one solution is to bring more collaboration within the field, because with more collaboration, people will share their data and will think about the field in a broader perspective rather than about their small problem, the small niche they are targeting, basically, because
Mm,
the more you share, because
mm.
it is a win-win situation for everybody then. You get what they are doing and they get what you are doing. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's actually happening. If you look at OTG, open, targets,
yeah.
it's a big consortium between some companies and their platform, and they're doing pretty well. And there are many others actually now. It's happening more and more because for once we all have to depend on each other because the
Yes.
data is being generated from this side. UK biobanks, right? All the
Yeah.
biobanks industry is depending extremely on it. All the genetic data is coming from biobanks. So
Yeah.
this actually it's a time where everybody has to depend on everyone else. The
Yes.
bio has to depend on tech, tech has to depend on bio, universities has,
Yes.
the academia has to depend on industry, industry has to depend on
Yes.
academia, which is good, I
Yeah.
would say. At least some amount of siloing will
Yes.
slowly, sort of disappear,
Yeah.
hopefully. I'm all for that. I would really like to work in the intersection of academia and industry if given a choice. I would be very excited to do that because
Oh,
that's where innovation will happen. That's where we can really make sense out of this huge amount of
yeah.
data and the technology that's available for us. So yeah, who knows.
And I want to and since you are working on this intersection of tech and bio, I want to ask about two of your initiatives, that is Lex GPT and Lex Mission, because I was quite intrigued by that. What was your idea behind these initiatives? What do they do? And how did you drive it to the stage where it can actually make the research more efficient? Like we talked about, like it will take less time and very faster.
Yeah, so that really was a project that I worked on in my last, job. So there was this very interesting legacy data that we had, like lexicon. It's about 5,000 gene knockouts systematically phenotyped across the board. So imagine the data that is available to you,
Yeah.
and it was really a really the next step, if you ask. I mean, you can think about it, right? I'm putting it very simply. You have this 5,000 genes, and you have the phenotype results, right? The knockout results from the perturbation results from all these genes. Now, the question is, what can we do with it to make predictions as to what would be a good novel or known target for a particular phenotype of interest that the company wants to pursue. So it became a question of how can you make use of it using the internal and external data to make a platform which people can use to save time, because obviously it's all siloed. I mean, you have to look at the genetic information, then you have to look at the expression, then you have to look at other phenotype information. So it was really like using the power of the legacy data to create a platform, put together, whatever information that's available, to create a platform that would make it easy for researchers to find answers and have a sort of an internal platform that people can, within the company can use. It sort of evolved. Initially, we wanted something very quickly. Then it evolved to the next level where you wanted some interactive, tools to explore. And then it evolved to a deep learning model, which unfortunately I haven't, it's not completely done. It was
Okay.
80% done when, the company had to let go of a good percentage of us for whatever reason it happened.
Yeah.
But the vision was to really create a platform, and we were designing it in such a way that we could ask questions that are essentially like different agents, AI agents coming together and answering
Yeah.
it, right? So the problem, the bottleneck in the drug discovery platform is that most of the time, either it's because of efficacy, either it's because safety reasons, either or it's because liver tox that the targets fail. So when you're thinking about biology, you're not thinking about chemistry at that point, even the fact that can I make a molecule out of it. So by really putting all these agents together, the idea is that you can ask questions that are a little bit you that will sort of help you with the bottleneck to an extent.
Yeah.
So how do you think about bringing all these agents together, right? Including an LLM agent, which is I'm sure plenty available now, uh, to actually uh, create a bigger agent that can answer questions much more effectively and much faster. And then you also can prioritize if you have a set of targets that you're, which we did, that part was done and that was something that we could do. But this bigger deep learning model that we were building is something that we couldn't completely finish. But the idea was that we would be able to answer any kind of questions that the machine can, and then it's constantly feeding new information into it, right? So it can take information from clinical trials, you can take information from you know uh, biomedical
Yeah.
publications. So all kinds of information. I mean, this is something that we all know, right? So different agents coming together. Um, that was a sort of thought process behind Let's GPT. And it's something I think probably all companies should have and will have. The only difference is that we had our foundational data,
Yeah.
which in my eyes was a very, very strong asset that we had, which I thought we should make use of. And that's how we created it. It was really a lot of fun
Wow.
working on that.
I think it is very important to just, in this field, I want to ask you, in this field, when you were working on this, as you said, creativity. How do you actually define what questions you are going to ask? Because at point of a time, Lex GPT or Lex mission was also a question, right? And the answer to that question was this platform to bring
Right,
everything onto one platform so that the researchers can get everything in like a package.
right,
So, what
right.
was that? What is that skill, or how do we actually ask the right questions that, keeping in mind, it would help people?
Yeah. So this happens through conversations.
Okay.
That is something, I mean, this is a learning that I've had throughout the years, but it became a lot more clear to me at Lexicon, which is that the question have to come from people who think about it in a very holistic way, not from, because I will have a very interesting modeling question in my mind or an algorithm that I would chase. But talking to biologists, talking to chemists, talking to people who have been driving the company for many years, that is what has helped me to frame the right questions. I was very clear that I will not be the only one who is deciding the question because it will be biased towards a particular aspect that I am interested in. So always having conversation sessions externally, not just within the company, and really understanding what would be helpful. So three things I ask myself, even whether it's a thought leadership part or even starting a project, whatever it is, right? Where you're spending your time and energy, is this aligning with what I think is useful? I don't even want to say values because that's a very, I don't want to use that word at this point of time. Is it aligning with what I think is useful? Is it aligning with what the industry or the company or the rest of what I'm helping, what we are catering to? Is it useful for them? And is it helping anything else other than these two? So if the answer is yes, that's it. That's all. It's very simple that way, you know. So having conversation is extremely important because you cannot be a master of everything. I
Yeah.
think one of the questions that we were talking about before we had this conversation, I remember that question very well,
Yeah.
which is that how do you know everything? You don't have to, and you cannot. That's the reality of it. You cannot master everything.
Yeah.
But then having a deep expertise in one and having that open mind to understand enough so that you can connect the dots. That is another answer to the first question you were asking, right? To
Yes.
be that 10 people, connect the dots. So we can add one more to that because that's not that easy. And that connecting dot comes with really sitting with something that a chat GPT or an AI cannot do for you,
True.
right? That's something you have to do.
Yes.
So they are still valued. We don't have to be discouraged by this things that are happening quickly.
Yes.
Quick always has some everything comes with a price. You
Exactly.
spend time, there is something that you develop.
Yeah.
It's a muscle you are developing. It's like you're going to a gym and developing a muscle. This whole research process of research is not about this eureka moment. That was another question that you asked. It's about being persistent, being ready to fail 100 times and
Yeah.
acknowledging that there is no magic moment, but you're slowly, slowly developing this muscle of curiosity, muscle of persistence, muscle of even understanding that a wrong answer, a failure is an answer.
Yeah.
It may not give you a paper, it may not give you a grant, but you found that this does not work. You
Exactly.
know, a lot of times we get sort of, overwhelmed with success and publications, and this has to go this way, this has to go this way, right? So if you really step back and look at whatever we are doing in a way that we are finding one answer to something, that's it, that's a success
Yeah.
right there. Then your perspective changes.
Yes.
So
I mean, I cannot tell you how much satisfaction that answer brings to me as a researcher on my part, because I always feel overwhelmed when I see so many things moving so fast, and I just wonder to myself, am I doing right thing right now? Because I fail almost 5 times a week when I do experiments. And I'm thinking, I don't know where it is going. But then that curiosity, whenever I know that, okay, this didn't work, now I will not do it again, that brings me some satisfaction. Okay, there are maybe 1,000 ways to do it. I filtered out that now this 999 are remaining. So,
exactly,
so
exactly.
that's,
And most of the time the fun is in the journey. I know it's very cliche to say it, but isn't it?
Yes,
Sometimes when you finish doing something, you're like, okay, it's over. So
yeah,
you enjoyed the process, and that's
yes,
it. That's all it is really at the end of
yeah,
the day. I mean, a philosophical way also, if you think about it,
yeah,
it is only this. That's it.
yes,
The rest is all in our imagination.
exactly.
So if you really, really really understand that, then you will not stop having fun. Nobody can make stop you from having fun.
Act,
Nobody, nothing.
it's
Mhm.
that thing, right? It's also said in the Bhagavad Gita. The problems are not big. It's just how big you make them in your mind. They are very small in this
Exactly.
big world.
Exactly, exactly.
And
Yeah. So
I have,
never stop having fun is
yes,
what my advice is to kids. I mean,
yeah,
I've done it. I've also stressed. It's not like I was always
yeah,
having fun, but at this point, I can say that because I do. Whether this happens, this doesn't happen, I'm having a blast every day. Every day, whether I have a job, whether I don't have a job, it doesn't matter because there's so much in the world to do, to think about, to create, to write. So it's just unlimited.
yes,
And your potential is also unlimited. And when they match, magic happens here.
yeah,
When the rest is bonus. If someone says something to you, or you get a job, you get a title, you get a promotion, whatever, you write a paper, that's bonus.
yeah.
But the major thing is happening here. And if that happens, then that's it. You're successful already.
I have this one last question to you that if you actually said that you enjoy mentoring students, young researchers.
Yes.
What is
Yes.
that one piece of advice that you would give to every young researcher out there who is,
Hmm.
lost maybe a bit, who is confused, like we all are in our journeys at some point of time? What is that
Hmm. Hmm.
advice you would give?
So, one thing I've noticed, I didn't have a mentor in my life, and I would advise every young researchers to have multiple mentors.
Okay.
This is extremely, extremely important because everyone brings some perspective, one perspective from their life, and it has to be that multiple perspectives that can guide you, which I didn't have. I had one person in my family who helped me to understand that there is a world outside than where I came from. And
Yeah.
he gave me that wings to fly. And that I consider him as my, first mentor. And after that, in my research journey, I didn't have mentors. And I believe it was a loss for me.
Okay.
If I knew, I would have had more mentors. So, but recently I've been blessed to have multiple people who are helping me in my journey in the last 4 or 5 years. It's been, I mean, such a blessing. And one of the things I was noticing them and thinking, what makes certain people special?
Yeah.
I was looking at them as a mentee. And what I am finding more and more, Ishita, is that a combination of the excellence in whatever they are doing, whether it's science, technology, whatever it is, entrepreneurship, plus there is something that I call as generosity of spirit.
Okay.
And I don't have another word for it. That combination is, I think, what makes someone different, a special person in someone's life. And if you have someone like that in your life, keep them, is what I would say. So that finding those mentors, that's one thing. Now, in terms of how you can excel or you can go forward, again, I would say stay curious, you know,
Yeah.
and stay kind.
Yes.
These, I know it's a very undervalued quality in science. People don't talk about kindness, but I believe it brings some sense of gratitude in your mind, which will help you propel. At the end of the day, this is all, um, I wouldn't say it's all science, but it all has certain meaning to it, right? Which we probably don't understand. So this combination is what has attracted me, what has helped me in my life. So I would say, do not get, it is okay to be overwhelmed, feel overwhelmed, but don't lose focus.
Yeah. It's
Always have your eyes on where you want to go, and do not let the noise affect you. But keep your eyes open for what is happening, but don't let the noise affect you, because noise has always been there in the world if you look at, right? It's like that when you're inside, it feels overwhelming, but if you step back, look at from the history of it, right? All the way from the beginning. There's always been disruptions.
Yeah.
When, something, maybe TV was disruption many years ago, then internet was disruption, then whatever this technology is, now this is AI. So disruptions were always there. How you adapt to it and how you stay focused, how you stay curious, how you stay, that's what makes the difference.
I do agree.
So and remember, in every problem there is an opportunity. Every problem in life, unless you're dying or your health is bad. Minus that, every problem has an opportunity. That's how I see life now at this point.
I mean,
Did I answer your question or did I
yes,
veer
it
away?
was. I mean, honestly, at this point of time, I have my brain is just inside this answer right now. Actually, when I'm doing a podcast, normally when the person is answering, I do think of the next question. But today, I have literally not done that. I am just
Oh,
listening
thank
to
you.
you like it's a story, and I am just asking the questions that are just coming to my mind. Okay, she's telling this. What is next after this? That how did this happen? So this was an amazing thing for me because right now also I'm processing your last answer, that to enjoy, to be in the moment, and to just not let the noise disturb what where you want to be. Just not disturbing your vision and let it be there, irrespective of what's going around, because that will always go around. If not this, then the other thing will be there.
Exactly.
I mean, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I mean, I feel that I am very grateful that at this point in my career, I get to connect with you and hear you, because honestly, it brings a lot of peace to me on a personal level right now. So that
Thank you. That's amazing. I mean, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, no, no. I mean, honestly, I do research because I love it. I love, uh, you know, getting to new things. I implement 10 things, 9 does not work. One work makes me happy. I'm okay with my life. I'm happy with it. But when I see so much negativity around, it is, sometimes like, why people have so much negativity for the work they do? They should not have it. Or either they should not do it. And if they don't enjoy it, they should rather do something else. So I always feel very bad because there are people like me who love what they do, but are always such negativity they are pouring into the jar. Whether you see LinkedIn or you see any social media, researchers are always telling we don't get paid, we don't get jobs. So I just have one thing, then why do you do it? Leave it. But there are people who love it. So let them do it peacefully and just not get that negativity out there. But listening to you, I'm actually just thinking to just sideline the noise now. And
Exactly. Exactly. See, when world goes through different phases of war or not having certain things or poverty or sometimes leadership issues, it affects the entire society. It goes into survival mode, it goes into scarcity mode, and it creates fear, it creates panic, it creates uncertainty. And the byproduct is all this that is happening around
yeah,
us or in the entire world, right? And to understand that these are coming from an external source, and these are transient things, sometimes they are dynamic, and the only constant is change. If you
yeah,
understand that inherently, it will help us to settle down. And if you understand the cyclic nature of the world, it'll help us settle down and regulate ourselves in such a way that we are helping ourselves. Forget about the world and the bigger picture. We are helping ourselves first,
yeah,
right? And it's a daily process. It's not magic. It's like I said, gym, right? I mean, if you
yeah,
go to gym a few days and stop, obviously it doesn't help. It's a daily process of really saying this again and again and again to yourself, so that you're helping yourself, and only if you help yourself you can help someone else or
yes,
do good job in whatever you're doing, right? So it's very simple to me, this thought process, or being being be sort of living in a way that makes sense to
yes,
you, living a sensible life is what they say.
yeah,
So but it comes with practice.
yes.
I'm so happy I could talk to you. I didn't even think that, I didn't even look at the time. I didn't know how time was going. It was like a candid conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. And this has been a very, very refreshing and a very, very, how do you say, like a, rewarding experience for me.
I mean,
So thank you.
yeah. It was rewarding for me as well because I am just a PhD student and you have just made it out there. It is literally so, I'm so grateful for that, that I get to talk to you, to listen to somebody who has been on that intersection, who has been through all this and survived in the field with so much positivity and adapted to the field. That's the biggest thing that I learned from you. You have adapted. You started as a physicist, a computational physicist, and today you are at that intersection, and it's all a journey of learning and transformation. So I am literally right now overwhelmed but by your experience and by everything you have done. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Appreciate